So early in the week, especially when it's a team like the Ravens, that's really honestly one of the best teams we've seen in a while. I'm gonna start harping on all of the stuff that they can do to eviscerate you, and then over the course of the week, I start talking myself into it. That's part of the fun. It makes me feel things. I want to feel things, but not actual things, just things like football, and then ignore all the other stuff. Here's CJ. I don't know. I boosted the audio on the questions, so I don't know what the questions are like I typically do when I have the transcripts. So I boosted it. We'll see if we can hear what they say. This one, I know I can't hear the question at all.
Yeah, we've grown in a multitude of areas.
He said we've grown in a multitude of areas, so I'm guessing he was asked, have you grown in a multitude of areas?
I think at that point we weren't really identified as who we are now, and
Okay, he's answering compared to week 1 versus the Ravens.
we've grown in a lot of aspects. A lot of more experience up front now, both offensively, defensively, and special teams. So I think we've grown in a lot of places.
There's a narrative on the outside that since you guys are in the divisional round now, that they didn't expect that, so you guys are playing with house money. What's your mindset when you hear that thought process?
That's not my thought process or our teams. We're just doing our job. We don't really pay attention to what people say. It's not up to them on what goes on the field. So it's really just up to us to go out there and do our jobs. And we believe in ourselves, and we trust in ourselves to win games and hopefully win this game. We have complete confidence in ourselves. So we're not really worried about what everybody else got to say.
I would have liked if he had said, "Yeah, we're playing with house money. Win or lose, I'm not really too worried about this one." Like, I like to get to a certain spot in life and then just sit pat.
You mentioned that you felt like y'all are playing our best football right now. Obviously, y'all are a much different team than y'all were week 1. And I recall Bobby saying that he felt like you two get down on the same page about after that second game. Y'all really locked together. What do you think it took to get on that same page where y'all are really clicking together, understanding each other, and playing the way y'all are playing now?
Just time, things don't happen overnight, especially in football. It takes a little time, and for us, the best teacher is experience. So just experience out there, and when the bullets are really flying, so the time and just the real in-game experiences help our relationship grow and our communication and things like that. So.
I think the biggest thing about CJ and Slowick working in conjunction, where it really felt like a culmination of a lot of things in that Ravens game, in that Browns game, was that the patience to set things up and really the way they attacked outside the numbers in that game, where they were, frustratingly at times pounding the ball up the middle for very little yardage, but how all of that set things up on the perimeter, and then also using the stuff on the perimeter to set up stuff on the other perimeter, like on that one touchdown drive. They just, everything's starting to feel tied together. When you think about a Gary Kubiak or Kyle Shanahan offense, ultimately what it looks like almost aesthetically, is that every play is tied to the other plays, that you don't run a play without thinking about how it might set something else later. And I think to get CJ on that level already, to almost where you understand the psychology of the play calling, that part's been really cool to watch with these two. I've got thoughts on him and Bobby Slowick potentially being broken up that I'll save until the end here.
What do you think about the opportunity you have to put the Texans in the AFC championship game for the first time ever with the win this week?
Yeah, right now we're focused on going 1-0 this week. We'll figure it out after that, I'm not really focused on after that. It's all about going 1-0 and trying to do as best as we can in this game.
I'll tell you one thing. The really tough thing is before the championship game. It used to be different. The only time I played in an AFC championship game, it was back when there was no bye week. You went straight to the Super Bowl, or at least in that year there was. And you had to pick out the 20 people that you wanted to give tickets to, in the week leading up to the conference championship. So you're pissing off family members and everything right that week. And they might not know it. I had to choose them, and I put them on it. I put them on the list, but I didn't tell anybody. And then when we lost, I didn't have to tell any. I just told everybody they were all on the list. I told 78 people. Yeah, you were going.
pretty well compared to other quarterbacks. It feels like you sell the fakes really well. The tosses, the Bobby had you, or the fake tosses Bobby had you doing, play actions. Where does that come from, and sort of why is that important? Where some quarterbacks maybe don't sell it as much as you do.
Okay, he was asked about executing fakes and how important that is, and where does that come from? Because some quarterbacks don't sell it as well as you do. Yes. As a former defensive player who used to be just dread going against Kubiak offenses or offenses like that, the play action is just a mother because they execute the fake so well.
I mean, that's how I've been coached my whole life. Really, is just the better sell you get, the easier the windows are, and the more you get for the defense to react, which is a good thing. So and then that's what they teach here, which is right up my alley when I got here. So just been getting better at that, and I feel like it has a lot of positives to it.
I would add to that the one thing that the defense did a much better job of last week, even though it was a little dicey early on, was just doing the run pass keys. That's what this defense, man, because they can get victimized by play action at times. The weeks that they look really good or when they're really clicking, it's when they recognize, and that all comes back to experience. D'Amico coaching them up on whatever tells a team might have. But man, Denzel Perryman especially looked like he had a really good read on run pass. And like that going versus the Ravens, hopefully haven't seen them once before. It's always, you can pick up things on film. Sometimes you pick up things on film and you think you might know something, but then you got to actually like be out there for a full quarter or two before you really see it at field level. And that's just with experience. That's why going against divisional opponents, it gets tougher and tougher the more you see those guys, because everybody's picking up on those little things. So hopefully this will be like a divisional game where the better team won the first time, but now you got a little bit of a beat, even though the Ravens are a lot different.
On that play that you and Nico weren't able to hook up on that long pass, when you came to the sidelines, one of the first people to greet you and talk to you was Tank. How important was it to just have Tank around on Saturday?
It was cool. Yeah, Tank is definitely somebody who we love to have around. Of course, he's still part of this team. He's definitely the most, I would say, like the most outgoing person on this team for sure. Just how he acts, his vibe, his positivity rubs off on everybody. So I love having Tank around. I'm constantly around him a lot still. So it's really just a blessing to have a guy like that to still be joyful in a moment where he's going through a lot.
Yeah, and somebody asked about Tank Dell coming back from IR, just so in case anybody had that question. No, he can't. The Texans are out of elevations for bringing people back from IR. And I think anyway, I mean, he did break his leg. Okay, depending on how simple a fracture it was, maybe he could be back by now, but he doesn't look like he's like restraining himself from running out there. I think he's moving kind of pretty methodically. Now that I think about it, I don't know if we already got him injured by him being somewhere he probably wasn't supposed to be on the goal line. I think he was looking for work himself on that play. But like, it's okay. I'd prefer not to get him hurt by him being on the sideline. Maybe they're trying to tell him that. Oh, let's not think about that. I'm being too negative. It's fine. Oh yeah, this too. Where is it? Oh yeah, like me and all that stuff. Like me for the algorithm and all and the engagement. Blah.
Since he came back from the injury, like the last 7 games, how has it been working with Juice Scruggs, especially considering that he was out for half the season, not running to like training camp? You guys really established.
He's asking, how is it working with Juice Scruggs, especially with him having been out for such a large chunk of time? So Juice Scruggs, left guard, trained to play center, pressed into duty at left guard.
Yeah, Juice has been doing amazing. He's been a really pivotal part to our success lately. And I know ever since he's gotten back, he's been really happy to be playing. I know it was hard for him to be out. So I think he's done a great job up there, him and LT holding the left side down and just communicating well and trying their best to gain a lot of trust and chemistry in a little amount of time, which I think they've done a great job of. So Juice is very talented, and I'm super excited to be working here for the next couple of years.
I think one other thing that Slowick and everybody else, all the coaches have done a good job of as the season's gone along, is I think creating more coordination between Tunsil and Scruggs and or whichever left guard was there. In the past, at times those guys have all seemed like kind of independent contractors almost as they're blocking in previous seasons. It's much more of a coordinated affair now, and having Tunsil out there able to work on an island or able to slide down, like that's helped a lot. It helps me be patient with the run game at times, because one of the things they're doing to protect CJ Moore is just to have a whole bunch of bodies in there. If you've got a fullback, if you've got two tight ends, whichever formations they're using, more bodies the better, and that helps those guys out.
Moon was in town last week. He's been singing your praises. Undoubtedly, you know his history with this city. I think there are 5 black starting quarterbacks in this NFL playoffs. What can you say about that representation, and has Warren Moon had any kind of impact on you personally?
I mean, my dad used to show me highlights of him growing up, him and Randall Cunningham, and just showed me like how much of a pure passer Warren Moon was, which I could really appreciate. So yeah, he paved a way for quarterbacks like myself and other quarterbacks, and I think he's did at a high level for a long time, you know, and finally people are giving him respect that he definitely deserves. So I appreciate him, and I know he reached out to me not so long ago, and it just meant a lot, just because I mean he was somebody who I looked up to growing up, and I'm blessed enough to be able just to be in contact and with them and things like that.
I wonder too. They had that foundation with Warren Moon, Andre Ware, Vince Young, and for a while Deshaun Watson also. But to help support, I think it was children. I think it was kids with single mothers, or quarterbacks, whatever it was. I wonder if they're pulling CJ into that as well. It's a really cool charity.
Week 1, that was your game against the Ravens. Where do you think you've grown the most?
Yeah, we were we were talking about douchebags. Just specific, no douchebags that you know, just specific douchebags. All right, sorry guys, I was fixated on D-bags.
From week 1, that was your game against the Ravens. Where do you think you've grown the most up until this point?
Okay, from week 1, where they played the Ravens, where do you think you've grown the most up to this point?
I just think overall, I mean, every aspect of, I mean, just kind of just operating as an NFL player, you know, it's different than college, especially off the field. I mean, just having more time on your hands, and just really just being a professional, you know, and I think my coaches have done a good job helping me, along with like my vets and things like that. So I've just grown in a lot of different places.
You know, on the non-football side of things, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a press conference midway through the season, and I want to say that it was before the Panthers game, but maybe it was, that would be a little too convenient, I think, where you could almost see that the weight of being the franchise quarterback was starting to come down on CJ. Like, he looked tired, and he kind of made a reference to all the demands on him, to the point where I was a little bit nervous about it. I would have made a bigger deal out of it if it was before the Panthers game. But I think it like that happens to everybody, and especially quarterbacks at some point. And I think CJ has demonstrated, even when he was at college, an ability to push away distractions. And a lot of times when people hear distraction, they think like partying or something. Like, no, it's everything. It's all the people that have their hands out wanting things from you. Good intentioned people sometimes, but everybody. CJ's got like 700 people like in his hemisphere that all think it would be no big deal just to ask for a little something, you know. There's just a little this, a little that, a little this, and it's hard to figure that stuff out, and he's done a really good job of it, keeping the main thing and all those other cliches.
You talked sort of this season about earlier this season about building trusting your coaches, and sort of the offense building trust. You obviously have that some things now. How different, or how much of a benefit is that trust factor do you feel like going into this game, as opposed to being a rookie still trying, or the first game of your rookie season still trying to figure it out?
So Brandon asked about the trust factor. And I couldn't tell if he was talking about with the coaches or just trust in the offense or trusting himself, whatever it was. Some kind of trust we're about to hear about.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, trust is everything. Something that Bobby talks about a lot, and we know how important it is, especially offensively, to trust the next man to do their job, so you're able to do yours, and so you can win. So I mean, like I said before, week 1 and now we built a lot of trust and chemistry together, and I think it's starting to show on film, and you can kind of just feel in the locker room how close we are. So it's a lot of different things that go along with trust that we've been able to build.
Obviously, you're really good at making plays, make a mistake, or you see something that you want to capitalize off of. I'm not asking, like, what did you see from the Ravens, but was there something that maybe stood out to you when you played them? And then going back to some of the divisional games, how were you able to kind of capitalize, whether it was against the Colts or against the Jaguars? And maybe you saw something earlier the first time you played them, versus maybe the second time.
Okay, so he's talking about the Ravens. He's seen them before. Was there anything that maybe he picked up from them? And, in a similar way, the way you may have picked up something from either the Colts or the Jaguars in playing them a previous time?
I mean, yeah, the Ravens are a great defense. I mean, definitely one of the top defenses in the league. Everything runs through really the linebackers and Kyle Hamilton. I mean, they're great players. The corners do their job. It means sticking in coverage. Their D-line gets a good pass rush. It rushes a unit. And really, that rang true week one, and it rings true now. So we got to just be on our A game, execute at a high level, focus on the little details, and just really when the moment gets big, that's when you execute and try to do your job and try to make it as easy as possible. So in those other divisional games, playing the team twice, it's really some things that you can pick up on, but also it's been a new season since we played those guys. So you really got to just play it true on what you see out there on the field and just try to execute at a high level.
Okay, so in terms of the linebackers he's just talking about, Colts have stud linebackers. Excuse me, the Ravens have stud linebackers. But in the same vein as I think the Browns and the Colts both have teams where the speed of the linebackers and the ranginess of their linebackers is a strength of those teams. That's where the play action really comes into play. And if you think about the difference between the Texans or the 49ers when they're running play action and it really works, a lot of it has to do with quarterback under center, running back 7 yards deep, bootlegs into actual run plays, all those things that really put the linebackers in a bind. And because when you're playing linebacker, quarterback's under center, running back 7 yards, and they start and you see run, that's a collision. Like you got to come up and stop that shit. You watch the Eagles and they run so little from under center that yes, there's a place for playing a boatload out of gun, especially if you're Tom Brady or somebody that can really dissect and pick apart, and who also has a really good grasp of the NFL run game. But even then, you still have to have an under center element. And the Eagles just don't threaten anything or anybody with their run game anymore because it's way too easy for linebackers to sit back, diagnose, and see whether it's going to be a run or a pass. If they have the run pass option going really well, then that's a little bit different, but they don't have that this year. So that part of it, I think the Colts and the Browns were maybe a good warm up for that part of it with the Ravens. The Ravens are just better in a lot of ways, more sound. The Browns defense kind of got screwed over just by having such inconsistency on offense. Like they didn't get any support at all. But because of that, the Ravens have really been able to congeal into a densely compacted, awesome unit. The linebackers and how CJ can read and manipulate them is really going to be the key this week.
Sergeant, the Ravens, obviously, you mentioned it, prepared like they have a few years of time.
All right, wait, Lamont, come on, man. You're just trolling now. National media are playing nice now with CJ, but his faith will become an issue. The only reason he's not getting it now is because he's relatively new to the national scene, unlike Tebow. Look, Tebow's problem was that he was not a good quarterback in the NFL. He got way more attention in play than he ever would, specifically because of his religion. But this notion that this is what I don't like about it, Lamont, and I think you know this. The notion that somehow the entire NFL is a big mass of heathens, and then every now and then somebody comes along that's religious, and the NFL is going to ostracize them for it. The majority of NFL players consider themselves evangelical Christians. It's a very, very religious league. It's to the point where I was in the first group of them with the Jaguars, where it was hardcore born again Christians who were very vocal and everything. So like that, Lamont, don't stop with the trolling. Nobody's gonna take him to task for his faith. They'll take him to task for sucking as a quarterback if he ever were to suck as a quarterback the same way they did Tim Tebow.
You give pressure on quarterbacks. Obviously, you haven't really played them. So how much does that help, knowing that you have some experiences with some of the things that they can do that can confuse you, and now be more equipped going into the second battle against them?
I think it was another question along the lines of just being familiar with the Ravens, but let's figure it out.
I mean, yeah, like I just said, I mean, it's a really good team. They do blitz a lot. They do have a lot of different simulated pressures, fire pressures on, like they have the whole nine. So seeing it week one is definitely good, and try to fix those problems that we had then, which I think we've done, and just play our game.
So the simulated pressures, it's always really interesting, the cat and mouse, because simulated pressure, when you bring up 6 guys to the line of scrimmage and then 2 of them bail, or sometimes 3 of them bail right at the snap, the advantage it gives the defense is the confusion of the quarterback not being able to read things. Remember, that's what Case really struggled with in the Browns game, were some of the simulated pressures. They caught him by surprise with it. And where he thought he was going to be able to go with it, he couldn't. So with CJ, that's definitely something that he wasn't bad at it by rookie standards, especially, but he's just seen a lot more of it now. And the opportunity area is that as those guys that are up the line of scrimmage need to drop back, it's a matter of just knowing A, where the opportunities are, and B, like, are your hot routes there and where they need to be. CJ early on, honestly, there were times when you could see that he was looking for his hot versus blitzes, but the receivers hadn't whipped their heads around yet. It was really less about a rookie quarterback thing and more about, sometimes even the veteran players just not being into the offense yet. That's what got a lot better and made CJ so good versus the blitz, when they all got on the same page and those guys were available as hots.
After your first regular season game against Baltimore, in the locker room, you and Jonathan Bernard had a conversation. We talked about that after the game, and he just told you, keep your head up. There's a lot more games coming. If you're his quarterback, you got the utmost confidence in what the team could do. How much of that did you carry with you throughout the season and where you are right now?
So I believe that was Sarge asking about a conversation John Grenard had with CJ after the Baltimore loss, encouraging him to keep his head up, etc.
Yeah, I carry that a lot. I mean, me and JG are constantly talking. He's a heck of a leader, man. He's a heck of a person, and a great player, and just that moment right there. I mean, I haven't lost a lot of games in my career, so like that definitely wasn't fun, and I was really like upset about a lot of different things, so he was really good for me in that moment, just to calm me down and just tell me, like, man, it's a long year, like, we can see these dudes again, and lo and behold, we do. So like, just having like vets and people who you can lean on in those type of moments, it means everything, because you know that they have your back through thick and thin. So I mean, I appreciate JG and really my whole team, because they're all really like that.
I don't know where these balloons are coming from. Hold on a second. I hit something on StreamYard that gave me balloons. I don't know why. All right. Apologize about those. I apologize about the balloons. I'm really glad he said that about how he hadn't lost a lot of games in his career, it's another one of those weird things that you worry about from guys who have had a lot of success. It's like the way they were able to turn being on an awesome offense at Ohio State into a negative, which, like, I understand they wanted to see him deal with more adversity, and he hadn't really. But likewise, guys that have been on awesome high school teams, awesome college teams, they've never really lost a lot. And you sometimes wonder, okay, it's one thing to lose a playoff game at the end of the year and then you don't see your team again or have to play a game for over 6 months. It's another to have to get right back out there. And then especially if you lose 2 or 3 in a row, which even good teams do in the NFL. I thought that CJ he showed like a concerted effort at staying the course, and like you could almost see him in those early games. We got sacked 12 times in the first 2 games. You can almost see him like going through in his mind, like, okay, I need to be a leader for these offensive linemen. Obviously, I'm reading way into that. That was just the way I looked at it, was because it's natural to get frustrated, especially when it was definitely the offense. Sometimes a sack is a quarterback's fault. Sometimes especially with a young quarterback. Like, it was definitely the offensive line's fault. And you could see him, just keeping that calm demeanor. It was really cool to see. And like, credit Grenard and a lot of those other older veterans on the team for, I think, really supporting him and helping him out, like almost be mentors in how to lead guys who are older than him. And frankly, like a lot of guys in the NFL have seen a lot more adversity in terms of losing than CJ had. So it's a hard lesson to learn on the fly.